Did you know 72% of organizations, when surveyed, said running events is essential to their marketing strategies? Member-only events not only bring your community together, they can attract new members by being provided as an exclusive membership benefit. Hi, I'm Mitch, the founder and CEO here at Joinit. In today's video, we're going to go over the importance of member-only events, as well as 3 approaches to validating memberships to supporting your member-only events. At Joinit, we've worked with over 1,500 organizations, and many of those organizations offer events. A lot of these events are member-only. So based on this experience, we've distilled a lot of advice into this short video. Let's dive in. First, let's go over why you need member-only events. Before listing our top 3 approaches to facilitating member-only events, let's look into why organizations might want to offer events that are exclusively reserved just for their members. First, member-only events are a great way to bring your community together and allow your members to have the chance to have exclusive access to events that are only offered as a part of your membership package. Your member-only or exclusive events can also be a great tool for attracting new members. For example, if your organization is holding a conference that has a really desirable speaker, folks can't just attend a one-off payment for the conference, they actually have to join the organization and involve themselves in the community. And lastly, the way that individuals who attend events actually experience and walk away from that event can be highly dependent on other attendees of the event. It can either be improved or degraded, depending on who else is in the room with you at the event. So having an exclusive requirement for members only at the event can actually improve the quality of the event and the experience for your other attendees. Now that we've discussed some of the reasons that organizations throw members only events, let's look at the actual operations or the implementation of member only events. The most important part of implementation is preventing what we call attendance fraud, or in layman terms, preventing people from being there who don't belong there. The first step in preventing attendance fraud is assessing your organization's risk. Before planning any event, I like to assess the organization's potential for fraud. Now, I do this with a simple framework that lays out 2 axes to determine whether I'm susceptible to attendance fraud. On one axis, I lay out the likelihood for an individual to commit fraud. Now, let's imagine this goes from low to high. As an example, on the low end, there might be an organization that's a homeowners association. The likelihood that an individual who's not affiliated with the organization will sneak into the members only meeting and participate in the homeowner association meeting is probably pretty low. On the other end of the spectrum, let's imagine a music professional association, and let's say at their annual meeting, they're having a famous pop star come. I'd put the likelihood for someone to commit fraud to see that event much higher. Now, that's just one axis. To round out the grid to complete this framework, there's another axis, which is the cost of fraud, and that goes from low to high. In the case of the homeowners association, we already discussed that they have a low likelihood of fraud, but in this scenario, they also have a low cost of fraud. Let's say the homeowner association is running a members only event and they're not serving any free food, there's no free drinks, there's no member only votes to amend the association's constitution. Basically, there's a very low cost of fraud. In the unlikely case that someone does commit attendance fraud, the cost to the organization is near zero. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, in the case of the Music Professional Association, let's say that this event is members only because there's an open bar and the venue has a limited capacity. That means that the cost of fraud associated with this members only event is very high. If more folks attend the event when they're not supposed to, it'll cost the organization more money because of the free hosted bar. Also, it could prevent members from being able to enter the venue because of the limited capacity. The cost of this fraud is too high and should be prevented. So I would assess this organization as having a high likelihood of fraud and a high cost of fraud. That would put it in the danger zone, where you really want to pay attention to attendance fraud. Now that we've gone over why organizations actually run member-only events, as well as discussed attendance fraud and how to evaluate your own organization's risk for attendance fraud, let's discuss the 3 approaches that organizations can take to actually run member-only events. Those 3 approaches are pre-purchase validation, post-purchase validation, and event entry validation. We're going to dive into each of those. The first approach is pre-purchase validation, and this is known as the most secure approach for any organization to use. How this approach works is that members will only be able to purchase a ticket after their membership has been validated. This is the ideal approach, but it requires one of 2 things. Either 1, you use an all-in-one ticketing platform that provides your membership software and your event ticketing, or 2, you use a best-in-class ticketing software that's integrated directly with your membership database. This approach is a great way for organizations to reduce and prevent attendance fraud because you've already made sure that only your members are the ones with tickets. The second approach is known as post-purchase validation. This involves your organization having a list of member names and comparing that list against a list of ticket purchasers. This approach is generally a manual task, and if any folks who purchase tickets end up to be non-members, they have to have their order canceled and refunded, which can incur extra costs and take a lot of time. So I'd really only be comfortable recommending this approach if in that framework we discussed earlier, you fell into that low risk, low cost quadrant. The last approach you can take is event entry validation. The concept here is simple. You're separately running your event ticketing and your membership database. And to gain access to the event, you need to have each validated. You need to have a valid event ticket and a valid membership. And these are separately checked and verified. Now, the downside here is that you're adding an additional step to event entry. So your operations are a little more complicated. The upside is that you're validating these in parallel. You're separately validating the event ticket and the member's membership. Essentially, that means that these are universally compatible systems. The systems don't need to directly integrate or talk to each other. So those are the three approaches: the pre-purchase validation, post-purchase validation, and event entry validation. Our recommendation, of course, is you want to do pre-purchase validation. And at Joinit, we have direct integrations with ticketing software like Eventbrite to support pre-purchase validation. This means you can connect your Joinit member database to your Eventbrite account, and we automatically create unique codes on behalf of your members so they can redeem those for private tickets to your member-only events. The integration is simple. You get to combine two best-in-class software, and you can set it up once and forget about it. If you have more questions on how it works, we'd love for you to reach out to support@joinit.com and we'll get those answered for you. That's it for today's video. As you can see, member-only events can be really powerful. So I hope it was helpful to lay out the framework that I use for assessing attendance fraud and going over the three approaches for implementing members-only events. If you like this content, subscribe. We publish videos every week, and I'll see you on the next one.